Don Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. We have with us someone which I've been looking forward to listening to because one of the most disruptive things that's happening in today's workplace and personal life is we can't talk to each other. We can't exchange ideas. Uh, it, uh, Justin Jones-Fosu has written a book, which I'm personally very interested in reading, and he's going to talk about today. Justin, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited, Don.
Okay, Justin, as we ask all our guests, first tell us a little bit about yourself personally, then about your company and how you came to write the book, and finally a website where people can know more.
Awesome. So my full name is Justin Peter Kofi Irabi Jones Fosu, Senior, because I'm now the first. I named my child after me. Don't judge me. He has a hard time in kindergarten. But I am a proud papa of two high energy kids, Lydia and Peter, and I'm just really, really thankful to be their dad. I'm a dual citizen of both Ghana and United States. And my dad's from Ghana, my mom's here from America. And one of the things that I think I uniquely love is hiking. It's one of my great hobbies. I've done Mount Kilimanjaro, Machu Picchu, Patagonia, Grand Canyon, and it's a big passion of mine. And so, but no amount of accolades, no awards, and what I do in my company will ever debunk me being a dad. One of the things we just won, as I was telling you earlier, Don, is that my daughter and I just won our last daddy-daughter dance competition. It's been our thing. We love dancing together. We did it at her elementary school. We won in her third grade year, in her fourth grade year, and then they asked us not to compete the fifth grade year. But what they did is they asked us would we mind hosting it. So during her fifth grade year, my daughter and I hosted the daddy-daughter dance, and so that's my greatest claim to fame is being a dad. And I'm an imperfect one, but I'm learning how to be better. My company, Work Meaningful, is a passion point that I birthed the iteration of this company almost 17 years ago. So March 24th, 2007 was the day that I founded the original company, and it's grown into a learning and development company focused in on the intersection of employee experience and inclusion, where our mission is to help individuals and organizations bring meaning to their work every single day. And so that's what I do for Work Meaningful. Now, we had to say, wait a minute, our names Work Meaningful. We need to lean into being meaningful. And so one of the things that's been helpful and meaningful for us is we started a foundation this past year, 2023, and we are focused on educational initiatives on the continent of Africa and the country United States. And so we've done clean water projects, desks, and now we're in a really big project that's overwhelming at times, but we're building a new school in my dad's home village because my dad used to be that poor village kid. And it's a new middle school. The first level's done, and we're almost complete on raising funds for the second level. So that's been really, really exciting. I think I have like $42,000 left to raise. So that's Work Meaningful. That's Work Meaningful Foundation. And how I came about writing this book. Uh, for a long time, I have a presentation called Work to a Different Beat, and we utilize the djembe drum to help facilitate how a meaning comes from within, like the meaning that we put into something matters. And I shifted and transitioned and included as part of that focus on inclusive mindset. And the inclusive mindset really it became a rallying cry around diversity and inclusion because I realized that a lot of times it'd been done in a very wrong way. It was very exclusive, right? For some people it only incorporated the big three, which is race, gender, and identity. And I realized that diversity and inclusion incorporates all of us because all of us have some aspect of us that's different from someone else, right? Whether that's personality, whether that's religion, whether that's politics, all those things. And so one, I wanted to communicate a message that was for everyone. Number two, uh, I saw it being done in a very shame-based approach. And so I wanted to do something else more positive, right? Start people right where they are and let them know, like, I still make mistakes. I've been doing this work for 20 decades and I still make errors and mistakes and think wrong things and have bias, all these things. But I'm choosing to make progress. Now, in one of the modules, I'd make a statement, and it became actually a staple of every presentation of the inclusive mindset. Was that I can vehemently disagree with someone's ideology and yet passionately pursue their humanity. And Don, the audience would go, "Oh, wow, ooh, and then people will come up afterwards like, "Justin, I love this statement. I think that was really great." But how do we do it? Or I struggle with it. And after probably 2 or 3 years of just hearing people share that, it really prompted me to dive deeper into the research. And while we did have some methodologies and things in place around respectful disagreement, I wanted to dive deeper to make it practical for the everyday person. Uh, Now, this is not just about, yes, we're getting ready to come across some really big things happening in society, but this is also about everyday work, workplace, team meetings, what people are struggling with, whose budget do we approve, what's the topic of the focus with marketing versus accounting, right? Especially for small businesses, is the question of, wait a minute, what hat does this person wear? Do I wear that hat? Who gets promotion? What happens when we're discussing this project? All of these things matter because what we found in the research is that an average of a little over 2 hours a week is spent on conflict every single week. And those are hours we can't get back for innovation. We can't get back for creativity, for relating and connecting to our customers, and to building solid and strong teams. And so I wrote the book to help not just with the big, challenging societal things, but in our everyday workplace issues as well.
That's interesting. You're saying that, if I hear you correctly, that on average we spend 2 hours in some sort of conflict each week. The average
Yeah.
person.
According to Zippido, that's one of the research. They had some interesting quote about how many working hours that is for us. And I was like, wow, that's asinine. But yeah, we spend a lot of time in conflict. Now, I don't believe conflict's bad, right? Unhealthy conflict can be bad, right? Polarization is not bad. Unhealthy polarization is bad. And so conflict actually can help us. And I want to help people to kind of dive deeper into how to make that respectful so that we can do better jobs in innovation, teamwork, and collaboration.
Well, before we go further, let's explore a little bit what conflict means to you and what it means to us. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the conflict political, which we're not going to do. There's a conflict between when you decide differing business goals, and there's
Yes.
conflicts uh, differing social um, outlooks. What are there any others that I haven't covered?
No, I mean, those are pretty much big conflict. I mean, there's family conflicts, there's conflicts that you have with, parents and kids. I sometimes disrespectfully disagree with my kids. Don't judge me, Don. But one of the key things I'm focusing on is the definition we found was really a serious disagreement and or argument. And it also could be defined as clash. And so um, that when there are sometimes what we call tightly coupled. The person's tightly coupled to this idea, this ideology, this perspective, this project, this viewpoint. That's where conflict can arise, especially when there's someone who is on the opposite side of that idea, the ideology, that viewpoint. And so, just really a serious disagreement or argument in all facets of life.
Hmm. But now, having said that, okay, let's talk about the first one, which is um, I'm in a smaller company, which is well, and there's disagreement as to um, strategic aims. What are our goals? Uh, how do you first identify that you have disagreement, and two, how do you start to resolve it?
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways that I've found, and as a small business owner as well myself, I've found over and over again that two things come up, right? And there's many more than, but two things rise to the surface. Number one, it's obvious, right? It's in the team meeting. You see the body behavior, you see the body language of people. You see when somebody brings up an idea, the rolling of eyes. And so you can sometimes see it just in the physical presence of a team meeting, and people are going at it in terms of two different opposing sides. So that's where you can start to initially see conflict. But you also see conflict, which is one of the research areas we were we didn't initially intend to dive into until we dug deeper was this concept of disrespectful agreement. And so it's almost when you could be in a team meeting and I'm talking with you, Don. I'm like, Don, I think that was a great idea. But then behind the closed door, I'm talking to Sally and I'm saying, Sally, I think what Don said was really stupid. I don't think that's the way we should go at all. And then you start to hear these grapevine conversations that are in conflict with what's happening. So one is it's obvious because it's happening in the meeting. Two, it's hidden behind the cultural veneer of we're trying to be nice, polite, or just get along, but there's actually ideological conflict that's occurring. The last one, which I really encourage people to, especially leaders, to create, is to provide opportunities for people to share conflict. And what I mean by that is where you almost manufacture conflict. Because again, conflict's not bad. What's one of the things that we do in our team? When we have our team meetings, say I have an idea or somebody else has an idea, what I ask my team to do is to try to debunk my idea. Try to tell me why my idea can't work. Try to tell me what are the things that are the detractors, the derailers of this idea. And because I'm constantly preaching that friction is actually helpful for us as we develop and grow, I'm constantly seeking the gray, which is one of our pillars we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. I'm asking what in this friction point can help me. So those are the three ways. It's obvious. You hear it because people are talking, right? Water cooler, grapevine, and or three, what I think leaders should really lean into, especially leaders of small, medium-sized companies, is creating those spaces where people can feel free to share the conflict. So you know what people are thinking, you know what they're thinking, you know the challenges that are occurring, and then you can work to find the gray, or as the book Dialogue, which I think is an awesome book, seeks out, is instead of A and B, how do we create C together?
And keep going, Justin. You're doing.
Oh, oh no, that was those were the ways that you see conflict, right? And so I think the only thing I'll add to that is that when we have leaders, and this is not easy. So what I'm not saying is just apply these magic principles and everything will be fine. I'm not saying that at all.
Uh,
What I am saying is the more I've leaned into vulnerability, the more that I've told my team I want a healthy sense of friction. I want you to challenge me. I don't want you to hide behind my title and think that you can't provide an opposing view. And the same thing is, if somebody else has a viewpoint that you disagree with, we call our family values as part of our company. We call it taking the HOV lane, right? And for those in the States, HOV lane in many places of high traffic. I used to live in DC. Was you got to go faster because there's a lot of buildup. The more people you add in the car, but what do we call the HOV? It's like we're able to go faster when we have H, honesty, O, openness, and V, vulnerability. And so those are things that we try to do in our team to help create healthy conflict, to address
but
the challenges.
how do you get someone to say? How do you get someone to challenge you? I mean, oftentimes they'll be passive aggressive, or they'll never tell you that they disagree with you. How do you get
Yeah.
people to open up and, in effect, attack you? Yes, but more importantly, engage you.
Yeah. So it's never, and I want to be clear on this, it's never challenging me. And that's where the issue sometimes comes because people don't want to challenge me. But what I encourage people to do is to challenge the idea. And the way that I try my best to do this, and again, it's you have to build it into the fabric and culture. A really great change management model I love is ADKAR. It helps to walk through how to do this. And so what I've seen some organizations do is um, first, the leader has to model that behavior. And in modeling that behavior, creating spaces and actually rewarding disagreement. Don, thank you so much for sharing opposing view. I can definitely see how what you're saying is valuable. Or wow, that really this piece of what I was saying, I can see how this is attached to it. Or even if it's simply complete disagreement, Don, thank you so much for sharing your disagreement. It's simply showing people that you value the disagreement. So number one, it takes the consistency of showing that. Number two, it's asking for it, right? It's asking for people to disagree. And then this is the challenge that some people do, because they go to a workshop and they learn about conflict and healthy conflict, and then they come back and say, all right, yeah, I would love to hear opposing views, right? But then, as soon as the first person that's brave enough to give their opposing view, they immediately shut them down.
Hmm.
They immediately tell them that's wrong, that's asinine, we will never do that. Versus saying, thank you for sharing. Or are there other perspectives as well?
Hmm.
The moment that we try to do this work, right? Especially if you have a team that you haven't normally been doing this, they're going to test the waters. They're going to see if you're really for real about this, and or if they're going to feel like this is just the come by lately tactic, and you're actually going to swat them down. So I always encourage leaders to simply use two words. If you don't have to make a decision in that meeting, thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing.
But now, you've engaged in the rhetoric to disagree and to talk, but then somebody starts to get very angry because
Yeah.
he or she does not like what you're saying and
Yeah.
takes it as, unfortunately, most people take criticism of their ideas or as personal attacks on themselves
Yeah.
rather than what they are. Um, uh, People attempting to either understand the concept or, in some cases, knock it down because for one reason or another it doesn't fit. How do you get people to look at it as a debate, not an attack?
Yeah, and I even want to take it further. I love that question. I want to take it further, not even as debate, but as a dialogue, right? When we think about dialogue, it's circular. So I don't know if anyone's ever been to like a drum circle, right? In the drum circle, it's not a drum performance where somebody's like bop, 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 and everybody's like, "Yeah, this is awesome." It's participative, so that everyone's in the circle contributing to the sound that we all hear. Not one drum is the leader essentially, but all of us are participation. That's the focus, right? Of creating a space where there's a dialogue, even if it's just two people, of a dialogue where we're building and engaging each other. So, how do we do that, right? Someone gets angry and mad. Number one, that respectful disagreement we've learned, it starts before the disagreement even happens, especially on teams, right? I can't dive deeper into that when I'm talking about some stranger I don't know, but we have teams of people and we're engaging. It's what are our relationships? What's the trust that we built in? As a leader, have I built in enough relational capital? One practical tool that we've been challenging leaders to do in this work is to scrap what we call the open door policy, right? And everybody's like, oh, I have an open door policy. I'm here, I have open door, right? But what we found is that open door policy is passive. It's a very passive approach. What we've challenged people to do is move to what we call an out the door policy, where we're actually going out, hearing the stories, building relationships, engaging with our people. Not just that, but how do we practically do that? Because you say that, Justin, I have too much going on. I have a team of 50 people. I have a lot going on. I have this. I'm worried about the economy and all these kind of things. Well, we've introduced a formula we call 1MC over W, right? Which simply stands for, and this is only math we'll do today, Don. But 1MC over W simply stands for one meaningful connection per week. What if it built into your time? Maybe it's in your one-on-ones, maybe it's other things. You talked and engaged and had 15 to 20 minutes built into your schedule to have those conversations. If that's too much, flip the W upside down, make it an M, one meaningful connection per month. Where once a month you intentionally, could be 30 to 60 minutes, engaging with people and building relationship. Because this is the key point. Because the relationship and trust matters when you're having the disagreement. If a person knows that you're a person who is for them, that you value them, that your character stands for caring for them, that when you have disagreements, there's more of a tendency to allow for benefit of the doubt, even if they have thoughts that come into their mind of that this could be an attack. They're like, no, but Don loves me. Like, Don cares for me. Don wants the best for me and my family. let me ask more questions. So that's number one. It's before the disagreement even starts. It's building up enough for relational capital. I love Stephen Covey's 7 Habits in terms of what are relational deposits that we're building into people. So that's number one. Number two, if you notice this is happening in the meeting and you see somebody getting heated, a couple of things come to mind. One is I realized early on is that there's really only one person that I can control, right? And that's my kids. And I'm joking. It's that doesn't work. I've tried. Trust me. But it's myself. I can never control how someone else responds, but I can always choose how I react to that response. And so, especially for leaders, especially for small business owners, CEOs, it's creating a space where you're like, wow, like I noticed this really impacts you. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you feel this way?
Hmm.
So asking more questions, because what we tend to do, and I get caught up into this too, I'm not perfect at this, is that now I'm trying to go, tat for tat, right? And now I'm raising my voice and I'm raising my passion level and I'm raising all these things because, oh, you're not going to challenge me. And it becomes more of a pride and ego perspective when I'm operating for my superior self. So what I'm encouraging myself first and foremost to do, and I encourage your listeners to do as well, is to ask more questions. That's why I call be the student. When I'm the student, I can ask because guess what? Most people don't feel understood. They feel angry, they feel upset because they don't feel like their voice is heard, they don't feel like their perspectives are valued. They start taking it as an attack on their character and or their identity. And so if we as leaders are able to allow for more conversation, to ask, why do you tell me more about why you feel that way? Right? Or I can tell this is really upsetting you. Like tell me what's going on. Like how are you feeling? When people get things off of their chest, when people are able to share, many times what we find in the research is that people are feel better, especially if I can communicate as a leader that I heard you, that I understand what you're saying. Doesn't mean I agree, but that I heard. So now I understand that you might be upset because we have to slash part of our marketing budget. And I know that as we're slashing part of our marketing budget temporarily, that's going to impact the work that we do and the sales, the leads that we bring in. Okay, I understand. Um, are there other ways because of our budget limitations that we think we can get to the same outcome of still driving in customers? Are there unique opportunities that don't require as much advertising or other things? Now we're getting into this place of gray, but it becomes a point of the leader to be able to handle that conflict in a way that's respectful, that that person feels seen, that person feels valued, and that person feels heard. Now, the last thing I'll say on this piece is that there's sometimes where we have to just stop the conversation. If we're noticing that there's just no coming back, that words have been said, and we've all been in those meetings where we're like, wow, what just happened? It may be time just, hey, let's take a quick break. And when we take a quick break, it may be a time to connect with that person offline or on a break and say, hey, like, what's going on? So many times I find that it's normally not even things that are tied to work that are impacting people that has them on edge. They could have had a disagreement with their spouse right before they came, or their child just said something that was off, or they may be going through a divorce, or so many things that where people come to the table and they're already on high alert. And so it's our job as leaders to read the room. And sometimes it's just, hey, let's take a momentary break and check in with your people to find out, because they may say, wow, like, yeah, actually, this something going on at home. I'm really sorry. When we approach it from that angle and less from the I'm going to meet you at your level, it normally, not always, but normally leads to better conversations and to better meetings going forward.
Well, Justin, I'd love to go on, but we're running out of time. Your website, one more time for our audience.
Yeah. The website is workmeaningful.com, and the specific book site is howtorespectfullydisagree.com.
And we have about a minute. What would you like to leave our audience with?
Yeah. I love to leave them with the truth behind that you can always choose to respect someone. One of the misnomers about respect is that you have to earn respect. That is one of the things that we challenged in our what we call our 10 characteristics of golden respect. You never have to earn respect because we can always choose to give it. I love one of my favorite books is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Powerful book, Holocaust survivor. And he talks about this gap between stimulus and response. We always have the power on how we choose to respond. So even if we're disrespected, we can choose to respect. And last but not least, there's some things that I'm closed-minded about. So I hate the philosophy that you always have to be open-minded. No, no, no. There's some things that you and I are closed-minded on, but we should always be open-hearted.
Well, on that note, Justin, we're going to say thank you for a very illuminating time. Thanks a lot.